All right, we're going to test out the walk and talk here, or maybe it's a walk and rant. Not really sure yet. But let me know what you think about this particular format. I'm doing this mostly because of sometimes these things take a long time to write up. And instead of doing a big long write up and setting up the screen and having lots and lots of examples, which I'll put some examples in the bottom here as we go along. I think this might just be easier because it lets me get this stuff out a little bit faster than planning things and it taking forever. So today what we're going to talk about is going to be third-party sellers when you are the brand owner and manufacturer and the challenges of selling on Amazon with dealing with that. On Amazon, the thing that makes Amazon great and also not so great is almost anybody can sell on Amazon. Amazon has a general rule that anybody that they've allowed on their platform is allowed to sell almost every product. There are exceptions to those rules, but those are usually like for big players like Disney and Marvel, and they have an actual level of protection. It's called brand gating, and it used to be available all the way back to like 2016 when it stopped being available. And Amazon will tell you that it doesn't exist, but it does. And but you have to do very special things to get it, or have large enough accounts to where they'll implement that. Now there are some programs that'll let you do that, but they're very expensive. And again, you need to be a super big brand, at least as far as I've been able to tell so far, in order to get these sort of benefits. And so what the brand gating does is it prevents anybody from selling your particular brand product. Amazon basically creates a whitelist of who's allowed to sell. So you want to sell a particular brand, you try to apply in there, you have to apply and then get approval. And usually that approval goes directly to the brand owner. The brand owner then either gives you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Now, if you've entered a business agreement with this brand owner, then everything's good because you've got contractual obligations between the two businesses on how you're supposed to behave if you're going to be, a business partner with these particular people. Now, let's deal with the situation where you don't have this particular agreement and you don't have a white label of what's going on or a white list of what's going on, and you're dealing with just anybody that's been allowed to sell is getting a hold of your product. The situation I'm talking about is when you don't have brand gating or any sort of protection for your brand on Amazon. And what that means is anybody that can get a hold of your product is allowed to sell your product. If you're a seller on Amazon of a particular brand, you might be wondering, well, like, what's wrong with a bunch of other people selling it? I want my product sold. The challenge is who's selling your particular item. If you have people that know the brand, care about the brand, and are good stewards of the brand, then that's a positive thing. If you have opportunistic people that are just looking to flip something on Amazon, in other words, they get it at any particular way and then they sell it at any particular price and they sell it at any particular condition, then you can definitely run into problems with brand reputation, price erosion, and a lot of other challenges that a lot of people don't understand until they've been through it. The four major things that happen is going to be counterfeiting, price undercutting, brand reputation, and then loss of the buy box. So I think number one, counterfeiting, that one's actually kind of the smallest because with counterfeiting, depending on where you have your products made, how your own supply chain is, it is relatively easy to locate this. Now, if you're making your stuff in China and your own manufacturer is putting stuff out on Amazon, branded as yours because it is yours, you got trouble. But for the clients we work with, it's mostly going to be American businesses producing goods here in the United States, or at least components mostly in the United States and then assembled here. The point when our products come together is inside the United States. And that just, even having that gives you a lot more control. When you have stuff being made overseas, you don't really know what the manufacturer is doing, or if they might be producing, an extra thousand of whatever your product is, and then selling it to someone down the street. And then those people come and put it up on Amazon because those guys are in a business agreement and they understand that your particular product is really popular. And then those guys can counterfeit it. Or you might even have your own manufacturer come back in under a different account and start selling it. And then, of course, deny that that's occurring. But it's really hard to tell. But let's go with a simpler situation where this is a U.S. product and we have a relatively good amount of control on that. Counterfeiting, when you're dealing with Amazon, Amazon's actually relatively good on counterfeiting, especially if you use the brand registry program. You still have to do test buys and show that this particular thing is a counterfeit, and that's a long process, especially if you're dealing with folks that are mailing products out of China. You might see something show up on your listing, and then you have to order it, and then could take 3 to 4, 6 weeks before you actually get the product. And this is something where people are looking to jump on something that's popular right now, sell something, and then disappear. They're not, this is not a long-term business play. It is more of a just whatever the opportunity is. So when those particular things show up on Amazon and you have brand registry, Amazon's relatively good at shutting those people down. Again, you have to prove it, but Amazon will take action on that. The challenge is if you're dealing with third-party sellers that obtained your product through some other means, other than buying it directly from you and have a business agreement with you, then Amazon pretty much does a hands-off sort of, we don't want to touch it. We reserve the right to allow you and your businesses to partner with whoever you want, and these people can sell whatever they want, as long as it's actually the same product. This is where things get a little bit gray. As far as the price undercutting, this is a thing. Those that have been doing this on Amazon for a while now, we just call it the race to the bottom, and it's something that erodes all your margins and causes lots of headaches, because when you first are setting up your product, you're looking at what your margins are, you're looking at the market will bear, you're looking at all these different things, and I'm assuming that you're also trying to make a quality product. You're not trying to be a cheap commodity. You're trying to do something that is higher quality, higher value. And if you have a particular price point and then somebody gets a hold of your product at a super low price, either because they figured out how to purchase it wholesale or they've actually got it as a closeout, then, or just got it by sheer theft, then that could be a problem, because there are issues with different types. There's shrinkage that happens in retail stores at the consumer level, but there's also stuff leaving the back door. That's another thing that can happen. And if you have a popular product that's selling well, it's something to be aware of. So that you've got the price undercutting, then you have the brand degradation on just the reputation of your brand. Let's say that you have a particular type of packaging and it's a little bit more delicate, or you have a product that needs to be packaged in a slightly different way if it goes through the e-com gauntlet than if you have something like on the retail shelf. Third-party sellers don't necessarily know that, and they may not know it, and they may not care. The issue is with that, these items might be being sold under your listing by a third party person who got the product, and the product is damaged, expired, an old version, part of a bundle where it wasn't supposed to be sold in that particular fashion. There's a lot of different scenarios. All the above leads to an issue with the end customer getting a negative result. They don't, they get this and it's used. Or, one of the ones that people get around a lot of times, if you're dealing with like grocery CPG products, would be expiration dates. When you are selling something that is, Amazon has some pretty strict requirements on the expiration date of these particular products. and they will require that yours has a particular amount of days left when you send it in, and then up to a certain point of how many days that particular product has, and when Amazon will call it expired and not let you sell it anymore. So, an example would be if you have a supplement and it's a 90-day supply, Amazon's not going to let you send a 90-day supply of supplements that only has 60 days left to its expiration date. So they're going to purge that like 120 days from its expiration date because they know the life of the product once it's received by the customer is going to be 90 days. So that gives the customer a window to actually use the product. However, if somebody's selling as a third party, if they're selling Amazon FBA, they have to follow those rules. If they're doing what's called merchant fulfill, which means they ship on their own, they don't have to do anything. And there's no way to verify until a customer gets a negative experience and or you do a test buy and say, look, they're selling expired product. Here's the evidence. I ordered it on this date. Here's the thing. It's expired or it's going to expire in 30 days. It's a 90-day supply, etc. These are some of the challenges of dealing with third-party sellers. And at the end of the day, what it is it's people that are taking the opportunity to sell your product, but it's going to damage the customer experience and or your particular margin on what the market will pay for this particular product. If you have a product, let's say it's $40 is what your price is on Amazon. Well, in a lot of cases, the wholesale price for something that's going to be sold in retail is roughly half. So the wholesale price might be $20, and then it's sold at the retail shelf for $40. And that makes up for the difference of, overhead, stocking, and all the different things, and then, whatever profit the grocery store needs to make. And that's just kind of a normal rule of thumb. Those numbers fluctuate. Now, if you're doing at a distribution level, then that number is even lower. So a distribution might be a quarter, something like that. So you might sell it to a distributor for $10. That distributor sells it to a grocery store for $20, and then that grocery store sells it to the customer for $40. Just basic numbers on what's going on here. Let's say that a customer is able to obtain this wholesale and then put it up on Amazon. Well, they got it for $20. There's a certain amount of margin on Amazon, and let's say for a $40 item, let's say that you're getting, $10 back revenue from Amazon. Because remember, when you send stuff into Amazon, there's your actual cost of goods sold. Then there's the cost of packaging this up to send into Amazon. There's the cost of the freight to get it in Amazon. Then once you sell something on Amazon, in most cases you have a 15% commission from Amazon. Then there's going to be whatever your fulfillment fees are, and depending on how well you've controlled your packaging and other things that do with the physical attributes of the product, your fulfillment can match or exceed that. So it's easy for something that's like $40 for sale on Amazon to only bring in $9 after it's all said and done. And that $9 needs to have, covered your cost of goods and all these other sort of things. So you're not necessarily looking at huge margins with this. But let's say that somebody was able to get a hold of this product for $20 their cost, they're selling it for 40, then they get the $9. Well, so let's say somebody was able to get a hold of this stuff for $20. They have it for $40 on Amazon. They're going to get the residual off of that, but they're going to ship it out of their own place. And especially with merchant fulfilled versions of these third-party sellers, what they'll often do is they'll just package this as cheaply as they can, and it won't necessarily be packaged well. They're saving on the steps that you, as the brand owner, would normally pay attention to. They don't need to pay attention to that because if the product doesn't look all that great, they're not particularly worried about it. And there's a whole industry, and maybe I'll put a couple links down in the bottom. There's a whole industry on Amazon closeout. And this is one of the reasons why it's always, always a bad idea to allow Amazon to dispose of your products. Because when you pay Amazon to dispose of your products, so let's say that you had a manufacturing defect and you had 1,000 units inside of Amazon FBA. What do? Well, if you leave it there, Amazon's going to charge you. And then if you sell it, well, brand reputation, you don't want to do that. What you need to do is you either need to return it to yourself and then you dispose of it, or you let Amazon dispose of it. Now, about a couple of years ago, there used to be a big difference where you could dispose of items on Amazon for about it was somewhere between 40 and 60 cents. I can't exactly remember what it was. Whereas sending it back to you was going to cost you basically the cost of fulfillment, which on a lot of items is, $3 to $4. In some cases, back in the day, it made sense like, hey, I pay $60 a unit to dispose of it, or I pay $4 a unit to send it back to me. Well, people were under the impression that when it was disposed of, it actually meant it was disposed of. Well, that's not the case. What Amazon will normally do is they'll bundle this stuff up and they'll sell it as a closeout on, basically auction off closeout pallets. And if you look, just go on YouTube, do a search for Amazon closeout pallets, and you'll find there is a whole industry of people buying trucks or pallets of Amazon returns, Amazon whatevers, and then they take that and then they flip it back on Amazon, or they sell it in kind of retail shops. Like I said, I'll put a video down there. There's a whole industry on this. The problem with being the brand owner is you don't want your product to be in those bins then being sold for $2 for a $40 item that someone else is going to come and sell up on Amazon and say, oh, look, they're selling this at $40. I got it for 2. Well, I'll sell it for 38 and undercut everybody that's on the list. I'll sell it. I'll get, and I'll get whatever difference is on there. And then if someone else shows up, well, then I'll cut it down to 36. I'll cut it down to 35. I'll cut it down to whatever I need to do to get this thing sold. Because I bought 10 of these things. It cost me $20. And I'm going to make, who knows, $17, $18 a pop on these things. And which means I have a lot of room to keep cutting to make sure I'm under everyone else. And what you're doing is you're trying to win the buy box by being the cheapest one there. And then we deal with the challenge of, let's say that you've got 5 of these third-party sellers and they're all doing this same thing where they are, one's undercutting the other. There's a such thing out there. It's been around forever. They're called repricers. Repricers are a little bot that you set up on your account. And what it does is it sniffs out the listing and looks for what the price is right now. Let's say that currently the price is 40 and somebody jumps in and they start selling it for $39.50. Well, your repricer is going to see that, and depending on how you set it up, that repricer will go, oh, I see someone there at $39.50. I have it to drop it by a quarter every single time someone shows up, and I want to be a quarter under the lowest price. So now you're $39.25. Well, there's 5 other sellers on there. They all dug into this lot of product that is floating out there in the supply chain, and they got them for $2 a unit. Well, the next guy's like, oh, well, I'll do the same thing. So he marks it down by 25. And so now you've got a price war where everyone's undercutting everyone else by a quarter or a dime or a nickel or whatever. And these are all automated. So you can go to bed and it's $39.50 and wake up and it's 36. And because everyone's fighting everyone else and all the bots are seeking the lowest price up to a particular floor, which is a price below where they won't go. Now, that floor where they won't go depends on what they obtained the product for. Now, if they got it for free or they got it on super closeout, then that price is extremely low. And then also on top of it, depending on where the product is, i.e., do they send it into FBA or do they have it in their own warehouse? In most cases, they've already purchased the product, so they have sunk cost into the product. A lot of places will go, well, I can sell it for as low as $2 revenue and get away with it because then I just recovered my capital that I put into it and I'm out. So what you'll see products that might be available in a retail store for $40, and then on Amazon they're $35, or even a little, sometimes like $19.97. And that's something that just happens when you don't have control of your supply chain and people are selling your product on Amazon and all they're interested in is getting the sale and getting out. And another thing that happens when you're dealing with third-party sellers, and again, let's go to the scenario where they have a closeout and they got it for super cheap. So let's say that you have an agreement, which you would because you're a business owner, but you have an agreement with a handful of retail shops that are also selling your particular product. and you've got an agreement that the price is going to be $40. And so those people that are taking on your product to sell it, they have either a written or at least a, implied agreement that you are not going to offer it on your own website for $35, while they in the retail shop are going to have it at $40, which basically means you're using those other retail shops as an advertising place, but they're not going to get paid and they're not going to make any sales because anyone can go and find it for $35 when they're selling it for 40. Most businesses, they'll either do that once and stop doing it, or they won't even take the agreement because they'll do some research on you and they'll see that you're not controlling your supply chain. All right, it's going to get a little bright here. I need to go earlier in the day, but we'll do that next time. Let's say that we have a situation here where you're the brand owner, you sell. Client we had, they had premium shampoos, and so they sold at $16, and they were only available in salons, I think Sephora, and yeah, it was pretty much it. Most of the major distribution channels, they did not sell to that on purpose because they wanted control of their own supply chain, and they wanted to make sure that the right products were there, and that's also paying attention to protecting your business partners, i.e., the salons in this situation, with the pricing. And what you'll see in a lot of cases is something called MAP pricing, minimum advertised price. And it's definitely something that we recommend anybody as they start getting into wholesaling to other retailers that they put in MAP pricing as part of their contract to do wholesaling. And all MAP says is there's a minimum advertised price that someone's allowed to sell stuff at. And then also another stipulation in there that's always good to have is that that particular seller is only allowed to sell, in their retail shop, maybe on their own e-commerce site, but not any aggregator sites like eBay, Walmart, Amazon, different things like that. And again, the point here is to protect the brand from undercutting, race to the bottom, brand degradation, all these other things that do occur. So let's set up the situation where we've got someone, they're at the salon, you have an agreement with the salon owners, and and you're in hundreds of different salons because your products are really good. And you sell wholesale to the salon at $8 a unit. The salons have a shelf price of $16 a unit. Again, the half and double sort of scenario that we did before. So, well, what happens? There we go. So, what can happen here is you have someone in the chair and they're talking about the different products that they're going to use, different things like that. Hey, do you want to try XYZ brand? We have it here on the shelf. Like, oh, okay, that'll be really, oh, I like how that makes my hair feel, yada, yada, yada. And then they're offering it for $16. And then while the stylist goes to the back, that person checks on their phone and says, oh, it's on Amazon for 14. It's on Amazon for 12. It's on Walmart for $9.99. They're selling it for 16. They're ripping me off. It's like, well, not really. What they're doing is they have a business agreement and there's overhead, there's shipping, there's lots of other expenses in there that the regular consumer doesn't understand. However, they see the price difference. So what happens in these particular situations where you don't have control of your supply chain and your product is coming back on Amazon or Walmart or some of these other places, your business partners, your other retail business partners will start going, I'm not doing business with you anymore because I'm shelving your product. My staff is educated and is, offering your product for sale. We have an agreement that it's going to be $16, but you are offering it for $9.99 somewhere else. Now, it's not you, but they're going to think it's you because, well, why else would that be happening? It's happening because things got on closeout. You did a disposal with Amazon, and now there's pallets of your stuff floating around in the world. You are widely distributed to where other people that don't have skin in the game, like the salon does, are getting it at a wholesale price, and they're just like, hey, I can throw it up on Amazon, and I see that they have it at 16, I'll sell it at 15. And then 10 other people do that. They have to race to the bottom. And then when the customer who's sitting in the chair that's about to buy that $16 product, or a shampoo and a conditioner at 16 each, they see it on Amazon. Oh, it's 12, it's 14. I'll buy it there. The store loses a sale. They're taking their time and effort. They get zero sales. And then eventually they go, hey, your stuff isn't selling very well. We're going to switch to a different brand. You lose a retail outlet to sell your product because it's cheaper on Amazon. So another reason to control what's going on. And the challenge with third party sellers is this happens. And so now you have customers that are now also expecting to get your product at 14, 12, something like that dollars instead of the standard $16 price that you're working with business partners and with other retails that it's always going to be 16. You sell it on 16 on your price, you sell it on Amazon at 16. So everyone's at the same price. But now other people are coming in that don't have skin in the game and they've obtained your product cheaply or for free and they're throwing it up there. And that causes other problems where, the price degrades. And then now you're having a challenge with, even having other people sell your product because they know it doesn't sell because you're trying to sell it at 16 and it needs to go for 12. Well, at 12, you might not have enough margin to operate your business or to pay for advertising or your employees or your overhead or the cost for your next run of materials. So it's a dangerous thing to have the third party sellers in there because they don't understand and they don't care about your particular brand. They just know they got it at X, they're going to sell it at Y, and whatever they need to do to make a buck, that's fine. Now, you'll find some reputable people out there that are third party sellers. That's true, but they're not necessarily going to be the problem. The problem is people getting it, dropping the price. But the challenge is, let's say that you obtained some product, you bought it, wholesale somewhere. You don't have an agreement with the company. You just found it on a closeout site, but you're trying to be careful. You don't want to sell bad product. Well, the challenge is you got 12 other people on there and they don't care. And now they're dropping the price. So now you are stuck with inventory as a third party seller. And you're like, well, I got it at 8. If I sell this at 12, I may not make any money. 16 made sense, but now these other people are selling it at 12 or whatever. Because some of these other people, again, they may have gotten it for free or they might just be liquidating it because they're just trying to recover their capital. They don't care if they make any money. They're just trying to prevent losing too much. But now you're in the mix with them. So what do? Do you sit there and take the loss and keep it at the higher price and never get the sale? Or do you join them in the race to the bottom and, keep going down and down? One of the things that goes on with the third party seller situation. Another situation that occurs is control over reviews on your product on Amazon. Again, a lot of people don't understand until they start doing this is, back in the day, Amazon used to allow you to communicate with the customer, and that has gotten less and less and less to the point of where Amazon has a complete firewall between the seller and the customer on pretty much everything. And if the customer opts out of any communication with the seller, then they'll pretty much get no communication from the seller. And what that means is somebody, we could do with the shampoo situation or, another client that we have, they sell a product that's available in retail stores in a particular type of packaging. And then we have it as a different packaging on ecom because it can't be in the same packaging or else it's going to get damaged because ecom has a very different packaging, let's call it requirement than something sitting, on a retail shelf, not being dropped on the ground, not being thrown in a box, not being shuffled around with other parts. This particular item on the retail shelf, it's fine. But if you were to actually ship the retail packaging, the parts inside, and this is a grocery product, will get damaged. You can almost think about it as, you buy a thing of crackers and, on the retail shelf, they're great. And if you get them and it's a bag of powder, you're not too happy about that. But, technically you got the product, you just didn't get it in the form you wanted. So let's go with the cracker situation. They take a box of crackers, the third party person bought it at the grocery store and they send it through Amazon and it gets to you and everything's been crushed and all the crackers are now powder. Well, you're not too happy about that because you ordered these crackers, you wanted them, and then now you get them and they're broken. And then what you'll find out, and this happens with a lot of food products on Amazon, Amazon has a rule that you're not allowed to return food products due to safety concerns. I'm not sure exactly where that comes from because, in theory, Amazon should be able to take the product back, dispose of it, and actually dispose of it, not sell it as a closeout, give the customer a refund, and then the customer can either, try again or they can just go elsewhere. But at least the customer's been made whole. But what Amazon has now is that you can't return it. So let's say you're a customer, you decided to buy this particular item, and then you get it, you received it, it's damaged, and you're upset because you got bad product. But then on top of it, you go and say, okay, well, this isn't any good. I'm going to go ahead and do a return. And then it turns out that when you try to do the return, the Amazon says no returns on this particular food item. You're like, it was damaged. That doesn't make any sense. So now you're angry. And as far as you know, as a regular consumer, you don't know that there's this such thing as third party sellers. You think it's the brand, saltine cracker or whatever. So you get a product, it's damaged, you try to return it, and now you're really angry because you can't even return it. And now you're stuck. You wasted money, you got bad product, you had a negative experience, and those people at XYZ brand company, you know, they're horrible people because they ripped me off. So you leave a 1-star review because you hate them, because bad things happened, you got bad product. Well, as the brand owner, you monitor your reviews on Amazon all the time because you obviously don't want 1-star reviews. Everyone knows that reviews are critical on Amazon, and for a lot of products, if you have below like a 3.8, people are just going to bounce. They're not even going to look at what your thing is. If you're like a 3 or a 2.8, it's hopeless. You're not going to get any sales unless people are just buying out of impulse or something else happened, because when reviews get low, people start to go, okay, there's something wrong here, and it might be there's actually something wrong with the product or how you get it. People don't care, they just know there's something wrong here, so they don't want it. Well, if you're the brand owner and let's say that you sell those particular crackers, except you put this thing in like a rigid cardboard box and you've got extra packing in there, so those crackers always make it through and they're in perfect condition just like it would be on the retail shelf. But you've got extra packaging on there to make sure that happens, because you know that if you just ship the thing kind of bare, that it's going to get rolled and cracked and crushed and all these sort of things. You've taken that into account. You have special packaging for it, which also means your cost of goods sold for selling that on e-com is actually going to be a bit higher than it is on retail, because you're taking extra care to make sure that one individual unit in this B2C transaction is getting to the customer correctly. Third party seller doesn't have any clue about that. Probably doesn't care. You now have a 1-star review on your listing, and you go and you find it and you're like, oh, well, yeah, someone didn't package it right. But you don't have the ability to contact the customer, because normally what you would do, even if it was a third party seller selling it, you'd contact the customer and say, I'm sorry for the negative experience. Obviously, somebody didn't package this correctly. Hey, I want to offer you a full refund, and I want to send you, a replacement item at no cost to you, and I'm going to send you a coupon so you can buy it at your local store. So that's the sort of thing, as a brand owner, you would normally do with an upset customer that had a negative experience due to, let's call it, supply chain issues with the third party seller. However, Amazon blocks you from doing that. You cannot communicate with the customer at all. When you look inside the tools inside Amazon, you'll see the 1-star review because it's connected with your brand, but you basically, it'll say you can't contact them because this wasn't your sale. Third party guys sold the product, you didn't sell the product. So the transaction didn't even go through your Amazon account. On a flip side, if it does go through the Amazon account, Amazon will normally block you from talking with them anyway, but they might give you the option to give them a refund. However, that is a might, and it depends on if the customer opted out for all communications, then you're just kind of, you can give them a refund, but you can't do anything. You can't tell them sorry, or we'll make this better, or we'll send you another one, or we've changed the packaging. Zero communication. But you can do a refund. In the case where it's a third party seller selling it, There's no options. You're basically just going to take it on the chin. And what that means is you need to protect your brand from having third-party sellers on there, because these sort of accidents happen all the time. Let's call it an accident. The seller didn't mean to sell bad product. They just happen to sell bad product because they don't understand that this thing has to be packaged in a different way in order to make it to the end customer in good shape. That's the next scenario that goes on that causes brand degradation. And now, if you have a whole bunch of people selling this on Amazon and people getting negative experiences, there's not much you can do. And another thing that happens when you have third-party sellers on your account, especially if they're doing the race to the bottom, is they're going to mess up your PPC as well as your any sort of couponing. Hold on, it's a little bright here. And another thing that happens when you have a lot of third-party sellers on there doing the race to the bottom is you're going to lose control of your PPC. In order for your PPC to run, you have to win the buy box. If you have people undercutting you, your PPC doesn't run. So if you're trying to do an advertised spend to, gain more customers, then you're going to have issues with not winning the buy box. And when you don't win the buy box, well, you're not going to win that. And another thing that happens, and this is something I've discovered recently, is if you're running coupons on your particular listings for whatever percentage off, what can happen is if the third party sellers are on there undercutting you by a significant amount for a period of time, Amazon will look at that and say, oh, this is the average price. And the average price is, let's go with the situation of the shampoo. It's supposed to be $16, but people are starting it to sell it at 12. You have it for 16, and let's say that you have a temporary coupon on there for next 30 days and you've got 5% off. Then what happens is, even if you win the buy box in the cycle of the buy box rotation, then what happens is you might win that, but your coupon doesn't show. Coupon doesn't show, you'll see a bang on your account and it'll say, lowest with coupon price is, let's say 12.48. You're selling it at 16 plus whatever discount, which would have been the actual, what the real price should be. But because these third-party people have now established a lower price, then not only does your PPC not run, except in the off chance that you get one turn in the cycle, but also now your coupons don't run for, at least 30 days, because Amazon says that they're taking that off the average of the past 30 days. So if you have third-party people in there undercutting you, then now when you try to give a discount, you can't. And then if you get with Amazon brand registry and, get some of these people removed, especially if they're selling something that's not the right product. Again, let's go with the cracker situation where they're selling the retail one and, they really need the e-com packaged one in order for it to work correctly. And you've got you've taken pictures, you've made test buys, you've done all that sort of stuff, and you let Amazon know, hey, look, these guys are selling this thing, it's getting damaged, it's the wrong packaging, it's not the same product. We've got a product in special packaging to make sure that it makes it through the process correctly. Even if Amazon then removes those people, one, other people will come back. And then two, you're trying to run your PPC and your coupons, but Amazon says, oh, well, your price point's not $16. Your price point is 12. Just because that's historically what's in there now, because the other people are in there. So what ends up happening is you get damaged in a number of different ways by having these third-party people on there, because again, they drive the price down and then Amazon starts holding your feet to the fire for that particular price. An additional situation that it's occurred, and again, third-party sellers, and all this is about the importance of paying attention and controlling your supply chain. Where is your product distributed? Who has it? And who is being a good steward of your brand when it gets sold out there in the world? So we had situations, shampoo example again, selling at $16, salons selling at $16. Somebody got a hold of the product for cheap. They're selling it on Walmart for like $9.98. Well, a lot of people don't understand that Amazon has bots that will scrub the internet. Definitely scrubs Walmart, eBay, and a handful of other sites. And what they're looking for is they're looking for you to have the lowest price on Amazon than anywhere else. And so what happens, and this happened to us, is all of a sudden our listing wasn't available. We stopped putting in the buy box, no PPC, and then when you go there, you get the option, and I'll take a screenshot and like put it up here or something like that. But it'll just say buying options, which means nobody won the buy box. And so when no one wins the buy box, basically Amazon is saying your price is too low, or sorry, your price is too high. We're not going to let you sell it. And so what we had to do in those particular situations was go, what's going on? Hey, Amazon, what happened? Our price is 16. It's always been 16. That's our contractual agreement with all of our retailers, 16, 16, 16. You call in, they'll say, well, the price is lower other places, and we need to make sure they're basically enforcing price matching, whether you like it or not. And so after looking around on different sites, we found, oh, here it is on Walmart for $9.98 or 12 something or whatever, basically a significantly lower price. Well, we have zero control over Walmart or whoever this was that bought that. And the likeliness that somebody's selling it for $9.98 on Walmart and they bought it through us through contract at $8 is pretty much zero. Those people got it somewhere else. But that's breaking our sales. And for a product that was selling very well, let's say that you're selling, I don't know, 200 or 300 units a day of just that one SKU. Well, your listing gets turned off, your PPC gets turned off, everything gets turned off. Now, people searching directly for it, they could still go there, click the buying options, and then select and buy that particular item. But that's a lot of effort. A lot of people don't want to go through the effort of doing that, so they just bounce. And anyone new that's looking for it, they'll just go, oh, it's not available, I'll come back later. And then they may or may not remember to do that. And so we had to search around to see if we could locate that particular item. And, we found it on Walmart. And there's not much you could do. I mean, you could try to contact the seller, but they're not interested in talking to you. They're just trying to flip your stuff. The resolution that worked for us was we went there, we bought the product, and we bought all the units that they had available. I mean, it was like 9 or 10. It wasn't something super huge, but if we hadn't gone there and taken that action, then what would have happened is our product wouldn't be for sale. And we would have lost thousands of dollars a day by not having that available for sale. And we'd just sit there, not knowing what's going on or how to fix the issue because Amazon has now locked us into, price matching on something that, we didn't have an agreement to, but they're Amazon. So what are you going to do? And then also, we kind of rewarded that guy for putting it up there at that price. So he got his full price, but it was less damaging to the company to pay him out, buy all his inventory, and then now it disappeared. And within 1 or 2 days, our listing came back up. And actually, what you need to do in that situation on Amazon, you need to contact Amazon and let them know that, the pricing is whatever it's supposed to be, and that, they're in error, they need to check again. And what they'll do is they'll do a fresh push out with their bots, and they'll find that that particular item's not there anymore. Now, if that guy replenishes, you're going to deal with it again. So if for some reason that guy got a closeout pallet of your particular materials, then you're going to have to do some more digging, see if you can find the street address of the person, contact them. I mean, you could try cease and desist. They are, iffy on how well that sort of stuff works, because if they didn't, you can't prove anything. And if it's not blatantly counterfeit, they just got it through the gray market, or, even if they stole it off the back of the truck, there's no way for you to prove it. And the other thing is, because Amazon updates stuff in real time, a little hiccup like this can mean tens of thousands of dollars worth of sales that you don't get. And that causes all sorts of other hiccups in the situation, just in how you're selling on Amazon, and then your rank for your brand versus your competition. It's going to get worse because, again, you might have been selling 200 or 300 units a day, and now you're down to 20 because you've lost the buy box, and people don't see that buy now button. It's just a few people that are like, well, I'm going to get it anyway. I'm going to do the buying options. I'm going to scroll through this list of people, and then I'm going to pick the one from the actual brand. Very, very few people do that. So these are some of the problems when dealing with third-party sellers. All right, so what can you do about third-party sellers? Well, the best thing you could do is not have any. And what that means is very, very, very closely control your supply chain. Who are you selling to? Who are they selling to? And make sure that you've got contractual agreements on, minimum advertised price, where they're allowed to sell, and enforce it. That's the big thing that happens. So for a lot of these brands that I named these different troubles with, they're brands that have been around for a while and they have wide distribution, and they never put any of this stuff in place. At the time, 10 years ago, it wasn't, it was still all happening, but not as many people knew about it. And so if someone, like you'll see sometimes you can buy stuff on someone's website as wholesale, and all they'll basically have as an agreement is, here's your price, you pay shipping, you pay this, you pay that. There's pretty much no agreement other than, here it is, you get it wholesale. That's the danger point. What you want to do is you want to more closely control your relationships with retailers so that they're respecting your brand. You're also vetting them to see if they're just operating under good business practices. It's obviously easier just to make a sale and get things going, and it's harder to vet people to see if they're qualified to sell. But if you're going to have a reputable brand, it's something that you pretty much need to do, because it's so easy for these scenarios that I was talking about to happen and cause brand degradation, either in the customer experience, either from the packaging, used product, expired product, not exactly the right product, something that was bundled in a weird sort of way. All these sort of things happen because you're not paying attention. So you need to pay attention, because as you grow, that opportunity for this arbitrage scenario is going to get greater and greater. You spotted me. So what do you do? Set up your contracts, vet the people that you sell to, check up on them on a regular basis, and make sure that you don't have leakage in your supply chain. If you start dealing with larger distribution channels, you're going to have to get a little bit fancier with your contract agreements to make sure this doesn't happen, especially if you're dealing with wider and wider distribution and you have the multiple tiers that happens with distribution to wholesale to retail. There's a lot of room in there for arbitrage if people get a hold of it at the wrong level. And then, of course, you're dealing with your own cost of goods, and then your reputation, your ability to deal with customer problems, your ability to reach out to, interact with the customer to make sure that they're having a positive experience. All these different things happen, but it's much easier when you're a small brand and you're very interactive with your customer base to talk with them. And then as you grow to the wholesale level, make sure that those situations are set up, whether you're dealing with, small retail places or as you grow, that you have these contracts in place to enforce the minimum advertised price and the fact that you're the only one allowed to sell on Amazon or eBay or Walmart. And basically, unless you want to be present on those, you don't want to be present on those. And now it's an ongoing challenge, but the tighter you control your own supply chain, then the easier that's going to be, and then those become a non-issue, and you can actually operate your business. So again, the main thing that you can do is put the contracts in place while you're small, control who you sell to, and always pay attention. You're going to have to police Amazon, eBay, Walmart, these other places. And then if you find anybody who's selling your product After they've gotten that agreement, then what you need to do is you need to cut them off and not provide any more inventory. That's really about the only thing you can do. You might be able to do some stuff with Amazon and Amazon brand registry, but outside counterfeiting, especially if it's literally the same product, you have little room to have Amazon do any sort of enforcement. They don't want to get involved. Now, if the retail product is different than the e-com product, then you've got some room there because you actually have something that's directly damaging your reputation because of how it's being sold, which is being sold incorrectly, and you've got custom packaging to prevent this particular issue, then you can usually get Amazon to help you remove those particular people. But if your supply chain is so leaky, then you're going to be dealing with a whack-a-mole situation where you have, 10, 15 of these people on there, and you're going to have to go back to see where your product is being sold and stop this from occurring. At the end of the day, you want to be able to sell your product and not deal with all the extra challenges that are caused by having third-party sellers on there, negative reviews, bad product, your price point being low, your actual business partners that are retailing for you, they're being undercut, they're getting upset from you. Your stuff's not selling in retail shops because it's priced lower on Amazon. All these different things happen because of that. So start early, enforce it, and when it gets a hold of your stuff and you figured out who it is, just cut them off from selling anything for your particular brand. If you don't know who it is, some of the things that you can do is start marking your product at the manufacturer level. If you know that you're going to be selling this product to 4 or 5 different places, again, starting early, go in there and put stickers on your product. Put a blue sticker underneath the product before you sell it. That goes to store A. Put a yellow sticker. That goes to store B. Red sticker, store C. Order it on Amazon, and you basically put a tracer on your product to see what it is, where it's coming from, and then even if you're talking with your stores and they're lying to you that they're selling on Amazon, you can catch them and then cut them off. But at the end of the day, the only thing you can do is cut them off. In most of these cases, you can't, if they're not counterfeiting, you can't really sue them, but you don't have to sell to them anymore. So cutting them off is going to be your best solution to stop that particular problem while it's early and while it's controllable, as opposed to years later after you're widely distributed and you've got dozens of these people doing their price wars and causing all sorts of issues going forward. Well, let me know if you like this particular type of walk. It's not very detailed, just sort of riffing on, the background that I've had, what I've experienced, the problems that are caused, and then also, the handful of solutions that you have in your control to mitigate this particular issue or prevent it from happening altogether. Especially if you're a small manufacturer, if you're the only one, you can control that. As you get bigger and bigger, it gets more and more difficult, but you can put things in place to help prevent that. And again, let me know how you like the outdoor setting, because maybe there's some more of these that I could do. It'll be a little faster, a little less editing, and to help people run their businesses more efficiently and then keep more profit in their pocket.